Welcome to another video with Matt. Today I'm going to show you how I made this awesome shelf, but first you're going to need a few things. Alright guys, so to get started today, you're going to need to get yourself a miter saw, a pen or pencil for making marks, a speed square, tape measure, a jigsaw, impact drivers, screws, wood clamps, wood glue. You'll also need some safety glasses, a countersink bit. I recommend the number 10. And we need to get some 2x4 lumber, 1x6 lumber, and stain of paint of your choice. And today's cut sheet, on your 1x6 lumber, you need to cut 5 out at 18 3/4. You need to cut 3 out at 30 3/4. You need 1 at 27 7/8, 1 at 32 3/4. And on your 2x4 lumber, you need to cut one end at a 45 and make sure that it is 28 inches from end to end, guys. Alright, and the screws that we are using today, guys, is 1.5 inch screws and some 3.5 inch screws. Guys, so to get started, we are going to need both our two 2x4s and one of our 30 3/4 inch boards right here. So what we're going to do is just stick this to the side real fast. We need to make sure that our angles are facing away from the wall like that, so when it's sitting up, it's got that cool angle, right? So what we need to do is flip these over just like this. Just like that. Alright, so your first board is literally going to be the top board. It's going to go from one end all the way to your other end, just like that right there, see? So what we also need to do, though, before we mount that board, is take your tape measure and a pen or pencil, whatever. You need to pull from the top right here and mark a mark at 16 inches, and do that on the other board also, because that's where your other backer board top's going to be. So we're going to go ahead and screw down our board on the top first, but what we need to do is countersink our holes just a little bit so that the boards don't split. So what I like to do, guys, is I just real quickly will just take my 2x4 that I'm using, I'm going to line it up just like that. I'm just going to pop a mark right there's the mark, and then you can kind of see that that's your 2x4, so you don't get too far to the edge and don't split your board or whatever. And I'm just going to make 2 little marks. That's going to be my countersink bits right there. It doesn't have to be perfect on that. And then you can flip the board around and do the same thing with your 2x4. Pop your line, make you 2 little marks. Go ahead and countersink those 4 holes right there, and then we'll screw this top board onto the back of our 2x4. And that's what your countersinks will do, guys. It'll allow it for the screws to go a little further down without damaging the boards. Alright, so now I'm ready to attach this backboard right here, and I'm just going to take my speed square and just line it up against the boards like this. Make sure it's nice and straight. And I'll come over here, see how that pushed in, and I couldn't really see it like that, but that looks pretty good to me right there. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and shoot some screws into it. Then we'll go over to the other side and shoot some screws over there too. Alright, so now you got your top board attached, so now you need to come down to your marks where you marked at 16 inches from the top up here, guys, and just take your speed square real quick and just make you a nice straight line on both sides. Now what you need to do is the same exact thing you did with your top board. Is take your 2x4 and just trace that and pop 2 more holes on this side and pop 2 more holes on this side with your countersink bit. So go ahead and do that, and then after we do that, what we're going to do, guys, we're going to take this and make the top of our board line up with the line just like this right here, and we're going to mount that board onto that then just like that. Alright, so now you got your countersink holes in, you got your board lined up at the top of your board, up here, guys, not the bottom, up here at the top. So line those up nice and straight and use your square to get it all nice, and then you can go ahead and shoot some screws in that part also. And shoot you some screws on the other side. Alright, so now that we have both of our backer boards installed on the back side, let's flip it over and go back to the top right here, guys. So your top piece is going to be your 32 3/4 board right here, guys. And what I want you to do is take your tape measure, and on both ends, just like this, like I did here, we're going to take a tape, pull back, measure 1 inch, right? Then pop you a straight line with your speed square. Do that on both sides. What this 1 inch mark is going to be is your mark for your 2x4s on the ends. That way it's got that cool look little overhang on the top part, right? So what we're going to do is line up our lines with our 2x4s just like that right there. And you might have to go around to the other side to make sure that you're nice and lined up straight. And you can use your wood clamps if you need to, or guys, or whatever. So what you need to do now is you got your marks, right? So what you need to do next is just take your little piece of scrap, little 2x4 like this, put that right against that line, pop your 2x4 mark, put it right against this line over here, just like that. Alright, and then you're going to, of course, make 2 more countersink hole marks. So we'll go ahead and make these marks. And like I said, they don't have to be perfect, especially up on the top where nobody's probably ever going to see. So what we need to do now is transfer these marks to the other side, guys. Alright, so the way I'm going to transfer my countersink holes to the other side without all the crazy lines and stuff on there is what I'm going to do is just basically take my tape measure. I'm going to measure down. That looks like 1 1/2 by 1 3/4. So what I'll do is just flip this board over and I'll go and make those same exact marks, guys. I'll go 1 1/2. And then over 1 3/4. And that's going to show me on the other side where my pilot holes will be. So go ahead and do that with your holes right here, guys. Just make sure you don't go over it. So you need to put it against. See, if I'd have used these 2 bottom marks right there, I wouldn't have went into the 2x4. I had to drop them down just a little bit. I just used that for reference, but thankfully that mark will be on the inside. So go ahead and measure your marks on the other side for your countersink bit, and we'll go ahead and drill those holes out also. Alright, so once you've got your countersink holes drilled on both sides now, what we need to do is go ahead and reline our lines back up on the other side. And like I said, if you need to, use some wood clamps to make it nice and tight and all that good stuff. But get it on there nice where you want it to be. I like this side right here, so I'm going to go ahead and screw down this side first right here. And then I'll come over to the other side real quick and screw that part together. Alright, so now the top is installed, so now we will go on to our next part, which is going to be the inside slots. Alright guys, so the next thing that I want to do is flip the piece back over again. I know a lot of flips in this project, but it's going to be alright. So what I want to do now is take just my speed square, and from the top of this backer board, not the top of the top shelf plate, but the top line right here, just stick my speed square on there. I want to mark it at 1 1/2, just like that. And then on my second board down here, I want to make a mark at 1 1/2. And then what I'm going to do, guys, is basically slide me a line. Sorry, there's a little knot right there. But slide me a line all the way down on that mark, and I also want to do the same exact thing on this mark also, and slide a line all the way down. That's going to mark our center mark for our first 2 rows of countersink holes, because we're going to screw these in from the back so you don't have the ugly screws on the front nice pretty boards, right? So what we're going to do is, like I said, this is our center lines right here, so let's go ahead and get those marked. Alright, so I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible out there for you guys without giving you a bunch of crazy numbers and stuff. So you know how we have our existing lines that we marked with our 2x4s to show where our screws are going to go, right? And now we have our center line. So just take one of your boards, your inside slat boards, line it up at the top right there on those lines, just like that. And what you want to do is just make you a mark. Make sure it crisscrosses over the lines. Alright, so that's going to show you where one board is, and then just keep lining these up all the way down and make your marks. Just like that. So go ahead and get all of those marked out all the way down. Alright guys, so the easiest way I want to show you to do this is just to take your tape measure. You're going to start at 1, and you got to pretend these are your boards, right? And this is your center line that we're going to drill the holes. You want to put it at 1 3/8. Put your mark, a little criss zigzag right there, and then you just come to your other line and just come back real quick and mark it at 1 3/8. That's where you're going to put your pilot holes at right here. Boom. So continue to do that for each one. Just pull from the next line. 1 3/8, make a mark. Pull from this line this way. 1 3/8, make a mark. Do that for both of your griddings right there. Alright, so now you've got all of your marks squiggled down there. You need to go ahead and just take your countersink bit, guys, and get the drilling. Go ahead and drill all of your marks out. Alright, so we have all of our pilot holes drilled out for now. That's not the last set we'll make, but just for now, we got all these drilled out. So what we need to do now, guys, is just flip it back over again. And I'm working on the edge of my horses right here, guys. So what I'm doing is I'm making it so that I can screw up from the bottom just like this. So now I want to take one of my 18 3/4 inch boards right here, one of my middle slats. Just go ahead and stick it in there nice and straight, get that nice and lined up. Then what I want to do next is go ahead and shoot some screws from the bottom right here of our holes and shoot them upwards, guys. So we're going to be drilling them just like this from the bottom, right? Alright, so once we do that, we'll go to stick our next board in. Now this is optional right here. You do not have to have wood glue to do this project, but wood glue just makes it bond a little tighter together, guys. So take you some wood glue on your next pieces, and you just put a nice little strip of wood glue right here on the edge, and then what you'll do is stick the next piece in, go ahead and slide it together, lock them up like that, and then keep continuing down, right? So then like your next board, you would put another little bead of glue down on the side right here, stick that board in place however you want it, just like that, and keep screwing those up until you have all 5 of your boards put in place. Alright guys, we got all of those boards screwed down nice and tight now, and it looks good. So what we're going to do again, we got to flip it over one more time. Flip it over just like this. Then we're going to take our tape measure, and we're going to mark 1 1/2 from the bottom of this lip right here, guys. So go ahead and put your mark at 1 1/2 here, 1 1/2 here, 1 1/2 there, and then you can just take your speed square, find that mark 1 1/2, and just come down nice and straight. Do your line, and then do the exact same thing, but this time we're only going to use 2 screws over here and 2 screws right here. So go ahead and make your line. It's going to be where I put 2 screws for our front board that's going this way, and then like over here, I know that's my center line. and pretty much just eyeball it too. So I'm going to drill these 2 holes with a countersink, and I'm going to drill these 2 holes with a countersink. Alright, so we'll quickly flip it back over again, then we'll take our last board right here, guys, that we got for the bottom right here. We'll go ahead and get that in. Wedge it in there nice and tight and straight. Make sure it's lined up nice. Then we can either just flip it over, shoot some screws, or go ahead and shoot some screws in that from the bottom in our 4 holes. So let's go ahead and get screws in that. Alright, so with our last 30 3/4 board, guys, we are going to need to cut these sides down on both sides just like we did right here. And that's going to allow it to fit right here snug in the middle area right here. So what we need to do that is to take your full board that you have, and you just need to line it up against one of your 2x4s down here just like that. And just take your pin, and you want to do it from the top of this part. You don't want to do it from the ground, right? You want to do it from the top of the boards right here. And just lay that kind of in there, and then you're just going to trace that and pop your marks, right? Then you go ahead and take you a jigsaw and cut out this little part right here. And then you do the same exact thing on this side right here. Is you go ahead and kind of mark it out and trace it with your pen right there, and then use your jigsaw again and cut that end out. So that will give us our middle shelf. So what I want you to do next is turn your piece like on its side right here. I want you to measure from the top of your board right here from the inside and just go about 8.5 inches. Make your mark at 8.5. Alright, so once you got your mark at 8.5, then you'll take your speed square and go ahead and pop you a nice straight line right there for that. Then we'll need to go on to the other side and do the exact same thing. Make us another 8.5 mark. And then pop us a line on that. Alright, so that's going to be the center of our board for where we put our screw in, guys. So what we need to do now is we need to make sure that we can get one screw roughly right there and another screw roughly right there. So we'll do that on both sides. Let me hold that up, the sun's kind of blinding me, but you'll see that way we don't go under or over. So I'm going to put the 2 marks right there. I'm going to do that on the same other side also, and then we're going to countersink these holes and then use our 3.5 inch screws to go into this board right here. So let's go ahead and get these countersink holes drilled out. Then we'll be ready to attach our board through the inside like that right there with screws. Alright, so now we got our holes marked right here for the side shelf. We got our holes countersink. So real quick, what I want you to do is just take your tape measure on your board right here. Down here towards the bottom nub right here, you need to mark 3/8. That's going to be your center of the board mark, guys. So we're just going to come over here just like that and mark it at 3/8. Then you need to flip it over. Do that on your other side right here, and that 3/8 mark is going to be your center line to help you line it up nice and straight on each end. So you line your line up down here with your line on your board, and that lets you know that you're nice and center, and to go ahead and shoot your screws in. Alright, so real quickly, just going to shoot some screws into our middle shelf right here, keeping those lines nice and lined up. There's one. Go ahead and shoot the other one in down here. There's 2. So then we'll go to the other side and repeat the same thing. Alright guys, so at this point, this is what you should basically have is the main frame right here. Now the options is up to you. You can add you another row of shells if you want to, just by repeating the same process like that. That's up to you. Or you can put you some little coat hook mounts right here or something like that to hang jackets or coats on. But before you mount any of that hardware, what I suggest you do now is to either stain it or paint it. However you're going to do this, you can leave it raw wood just like I'm going to, guys, because I love the look of just raw wood. But that's up to you to stain it, to paint it, to add your hardware and stuff. Alright guys, so for mounting it on the wall, I simply just use these little hanger mounts right here. As you can see, put one on each corner of the backer board right here. Not on the top part of the shelf, but on the backer board right here. So I put one in that corner, lined it up from end to end and made it nice and square. Then I came over here and put one there also. So that is how I'm going to mount this to the wall. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to hit that like button down below for me and subscribe if you haven't already. I am going to be taking down this little picture right here and hanging this shelf up right here where my wife wants it, guys. So like I said, if you enjoyed it, smash that like button down below. I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful week. Peace.